In this video, I'm going to cover how you can lose body fat and build muscle all at the same time. What's up YouTube fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal and my channel is about helping women over 40 transform their bodies, focusing on strength training and a good diet. So can you drop body fat and build muscle all at the same time? Well, a lot of experts say that you can't, and the old school style of weight training and bodybuilding was all about having an off season where you build muscle and gain weight, and then having an on season where you strip the fat down and you lose the body fat to reveal these glorious muscles that you've developed. But life isn't like that, is it, for women? And as women, we don't want to gain a ton of weight in order to get some muscle, and we want to look as lean as possible, don't we? I wanted to make this video because I did a poll recently asking you guys what were your sort of goals, and one of the big goals was about dropping body fat and building muscle at the same time. So, is it possible to lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time? Yes, absolutely it is. And I did that leading up to a competition in 2019. I'll put the pictures up here of my weight loss journey. So not only did I drop body fat, but I actually lost weight on the scale, but I also gained muscle. This year in 2020, I was actually working my way towards a photo shoot. This was during lockdown, which made it extra specially challenging, and I dropped body fat, lost weight on the scale as well, and gained muscle. So it is possible given the right set of circumstances. There are three types of people where it's easier to gain muscle and lose fat all at the same time. So the first group of people would be newbie weightlifters. If you're a newbie weightlifter, you're new to training, or you're coming back from a long period off weight training, your body is going to really love that new regime and be able to drop body fat and build muscle at the same time, because you can be in a calorie deficit if you're a newbie and still make progress in the gym, because your body responds really well to it. Muscle development is much easier for you guys than it is for somebody like me that's been doing it a number of years. The second group of people are people that need to lose more than about 20 pounds, that kind of thing. So if you've got a bit more weight to lose, you can be in a calorie deficit and still build that muscle. And then the third group of people, and those people who've got the genes that mean they can just do that, lose body fat and gain muscle while being in a calorie deficit. And calorie deficit is really important. I'm going to come to that in a bit. But for a lot of people, trying to put on muscle when you're in a calorie deficit is actually quite hard. And what a lot of people need to do is actually be in a calorie surplus to be able to gain muscle. If you're not in that group, don't despair. You still can build muscle and lose fat given the right set of circumstances, and that's really focusing on the diet. The diet needs to be absolutely on point, and focusing on the type of training that you're doing and how you're training in the gym. And so when you've got that right, it is possible. First off, I'm going to cover diet. Normally, when you're dropping fat, you would need to be in a calorie deficit. It would be our intuition, wouldn't it, to make the calories as low as possible. But if you're training to build muscle, what you actually need to do is be in a small calorie deficit. And then the protein needs to be quite high. You need to be eating 1 gram of protein per pound in body weight. but I would actually take it higher. I'm taking in around 160 grams of protein, but I only actually weigh 116 pounds. So you can see my protein is much higher than the recommendation. And so that's going to be a really useful tool in terms of building your muscle. And the other thing that you need to focus on is making sure you have enough carbohydrate in your diet. I would recommend at least 150 grams of carbohydrate is what you need to have in your diet, but it's also about the timing of the carbohydrate. It's a really good idea to only put that amount in on your weightlifting days. And what you need to do is focus the carbohydrates around the time that you train, the time that you're lifting heavy weights, making sure you're eating plenty of carbohydrate before your weight training session. So that might be something like chicken and rice or some sort of protein source and rice. And then eating within half an hour after your training session some more carbohydrate and protein. Focus your carbohydrate intake around your training and earlier in the day when you've got more opportunity to sort of burn it off. I've covered calculating your calories, and I'm going to link in the description. I've made a whole video on how to calculate your calories and macros using MyFitnessPal and a sort of calculator to work out how many calories you should be having and what your macro split should be. Some people are able to stay on what's called maintenance calories and still lose body fat and gain muscle. So that's one option, making sure you've got the right split of your carbohydrates, protein and fats, which can be calculated through MyFitnessPal, or in a small calorie deficit of say 200 to 300 calories. Say your maintenance calories are something like 2,000 calories, only dropping them by 200 or 300 calories. So we're talking about 1,700 to 1,800 calories, and that's around about what I do to just cause that deficit. So it's not a big deficit, and that's going to enable you to build muscle and drop fat at the same time. And next up, I'm going to cover your training regime and what that should look like if you're trying to lose fat and build muscle at the same time. So if you like this video so far, do give it the thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. And do comment below if there's anything you want me to cover in the future. I would love to hear from you, and I've covered quite a few topics from the comments that people have left in my comments section, so I'm really happy to understand what your concerns are. And do also give me a follow on Instagram, where I have lots more tips and information about getting in shape for women over the age of 40. So next up, I'm going to cover training, and it'll be no surprise to you, I'm sure, that if we want to build muscle, we do really need to focus on a really good weightlifting strategy. And by that I mean it's not just about when you train or how long you train, it's actually really got mostly to do with how you train when you get there. And that's what's made a massive difference for me, and being able to drop that body fat and build muscle at the same time has been all about the level of intensity at the gym and working really, really hard. So when we're weight training, what we need to focus on is something called progressive overload. So that's really challenging your muscle each time you go in the gym. Typically how you do this progressive overload is actually lifting heavier each time you go in the gym. So even if it's only by a pound in weight or half a kilo, that's absolutely fine, because what you're doing is you're challenging yourself to actually push yourself a bit further each time you go in, which is going to in turn challenge your muscle. You're going to tear the muscle, and when the muscle repairs, that's when it's going to grow. So you're going to get that muscle development. Now, sometimes when we're in the gym, we just can't go any heavier. So what we can do is something called time under tension. So that's slowing the movement down or putting a pause in the lower part of the movement. I'll put a link below on how to make your workouts more challenging, particularly if you're working out from home. It's so important because it is more difficult if we've only got one set of dumbbells to keep challenging ourselves every time we work out. But we also need to incorporate some cardio. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know I'm not a big proponent of doing hours and hours of cardio. But in this instance, we are trying to drop some body fat. So it's not a long-term plan to do all this cardio, but we do need to step up our cardio. So what I would recommend for women over the age of 40 is we really focus on the high intensity interval training or HIIT training, because that's massively effective for burning body fat. You know, I found it to be extremely effective for me when other things weren't working. The steady state cardio, stuff like running, it just wasn't working for me. And then when I switched to the HIIT cardio, it really made a difference. So doing that 5 or 6 times a week for 30 minutes, and in those 5 or 6 sessions a week, including a couple of circuit workouts, you know, where you're doing jump squats, you're doing burpees, maybe a bit of jump rope, you know, renegade rows, those kind of things. It's going to really exert a lot of energy. The added benefit is you will be doing some muscle building with those as well. And then the other times you're doing cardio, do one of the straightforward HIIT workouts or sprint training. It could be the Stairmaster, it could be the rowing machine. Those are my tips for dropping body fat and building muscle at the same time. And if you're interested in a program where you can do this, I do have a 6-week shred challenge that's specifically designed for women over the age of 40 to drop body fat and build muscle. These are through home workouts at the same time, and you know, the women on this program have been fantastically successful at that. So I'm going to link up here another one of my videos that I hope you enjoy.